Hello, everyone. This is Michelle, and I want to thank you and welcome you uh, to the first video blog here on WynnModernArt.com. Now, a little bit about me for those of you who don't know me. I am part of the VIP tribe on Facebook. I've been a customer of Victoria's for going on 3 years, I think it's been. And I'm an artist from Northeast Ohio. I teach acrylic painting and acrylic pouring at Stella's Art Gallery in Willoughby, Ohio. I also have a studio space there where I sell my artwork. So that's about me. I have two kids, two grandkids, and one on the way. And I've always had an interest in art. I paint intuitively. It's just the way I've always done things. So that's a little bit about me. And I want to get in. I'm super excited about this. Before Victoria even came out with the clear base paint that she now offers on the website, I mean, this idea has been in my head for months, and it's a glowing swipe. So those of you who do acrylic pouring, you know all about the swipe technique. Whether you've tried it or not, you've heard about it. If you haven't at least tried it. And I just, in my head, I had this picture of the swipe glowing, and I wasn't sure how I was going to achieve it. And I finally had some time to experiment. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you what works and what doesn't work. We'll start with what didn't work. But I want to I want to tell you that always treat every project, every piece, every painting, or whatever it is you do, be drawing, whatever, as an experiment. Because you will always learn something. And if you're learning something, it's never a fail, right? So these were just strictly experiments. And thank you, Victoria, for this light. I am still trying to get used to using the light so that we don't get glare. So this is what didn't work. Now, those that have been into acrylic pouring for a while, you've heard of Australian Floetrol and the magic it does when mixed with Amsterdam paint. Now, I have tried Amsterdam paint, or I've tried other paints other than Amsterdam with the Australian Floetrol, and what everybody says is true. It just doesn't work as well. There's some magic about the Amsterdam paint. So you're kind of limited, and this is very expensive. And for those who don't know, it's called Australian Floetrol because this is the Floetrol that they sell in Australia. So it's pretty expensive to get. I think I've had this for a couple of years, and I think I spent like it was either $32 or $34 for 500 milliliter cute little jug. Pretty pricey. So I noticed back in, I don't know, several months back, I went to pick up my Floetrol, my regular American Floetrol, from Lowe's. And next to it was this M1. And it's exactly what Floetrol is. Latex paint additive and extender, right? But it's super, super thin, like watery thin. And I wondered if it would make a good substitute for the Australian Floetrol. And it does. And anyone out there who's watching who's taken my multiple technique class, you've used the M1. And so you can testify to that. So I thought, well, I'll just use the paint base, right? And wedding cake, because it's white, and use that. So I made the paint with wedding cake, and I added M1, And here I added Australian Floetrol and I swiped. And I got no lacing at all. It did, however, create, both of them, a very like a uniform shimmer to it, because I did not use any metallic paints in this. This is Apricot by Arteza and Viridian by Master's Touch, and I added, I think that was all I put in there. And then I swiped with the wedding cake. I did the same thing with Australian Floetrol. Again, there's a little shimmer here. No lacing at all whatsoever. And the glow wasn't very good at all. Like, it barely glowed. So I had some paint that still from when Victoria was selling the paint. So I used the Caribbean just to see if I got a difference. And I didn't really. It's the same paint base, so I kind of figured I wouldn't. The glow was a little brighter, but again, no lacing at all. It just separated. In fact, here, there's even like where it cracked a little. Did not work. But the glow is stronger. And I think that's because there's probably more glow pigment in this than there was that I mixed in here. So, but it still wasn't what I was looking for. So, okay, so here are the first four that were close, but not quite. So I used Master Touch Viridian and Arteza Apricot in all of these. So for the swipe, in the top one, I used Transparent Mixing White by Liquitex Basics because I felt it needed a paint, and that paint is transparent. So I used a 1/4 teaspoon of that and a 1/4 teaspoon of wedding cake. And I used M1 in all of these for my swipe. My regular paints are just mixed with Floetrol. The second one I used Liquid Matte Medium by Liquitex, a 1/4 teaspoon, and a 1/4 teaspoon of wedding cake. Now in those two, with the wedding cake, the first one I got glow and lacing. The second one, the glow wasn't as good, but I did get some lacing that held up. Then the third one, I used Transparent Mixing White, a 1/4 teaspoon, and Moon Dust, a 1/4 teaspoon. And I got both lacing and glow. Then I used, in the fourth one, Liquitex Matte Medium, a 1/2 teaspoon, and a 1/4 teaspoon of Moon Dust. Now the glow was good, but the lacing didn't hold up very well. And I'm thinking, the powder will thicken your mixture. But it also is going to change the chemical component of your mixture as well. And I was trying to get a recipe, and I don't normally measure things. And so this is like something I had to really be diligent on. So if you're going to experiment with things, measure. As you do something over and over, you could probably eyeball it just like when you cook. But for the purposes of this, I needed to know how much of each would give me the results that I was looking for. So now we're going to go on to number 5 and what actually worked. Here's the wet results of number 5, and here are the dry results. And I was at this point jumping up and down after it dried. My lacing held. Now I want to point out, first I'll tell you the mixture I used. I used a 1/4 teaspoon of Transparent Mixing White and a heaping 1/4 teaspoon of Moon Dust. I mixed well and then added some M1. Now, the long vertical swipe that you see, I tilted the canvas after I swiped because I wanted to see if the swipe would hold up. The bottom and then the far right corner, those swipes were not tilted. Now, while you can still see the swipe, it's the vertical swipe, it didn't hold up as well being tilted as it did if I didn't tilt. If I didn't tilt, it held. You can see it both dry and glowing, which is what I was looking for. I wanted the swipe to hold up dry and glow. So that's what I was looking for. And I was super, super excited about this, jumping up and down. My neighbors think I'm crazy. I messaged Victoria. So I was super excited about this. So there's that. Now I'll give you an example of how I achieve this. Okay, so how cool is that? That is just the coolest thing ever, right? So this here is Moondust Glow Powder, M1, and the Transparent Mixing White. Now what I do is, I already mixed it up for just to save some time. I put my paint in first. So I'll put my it's a 1/4 teaspoon. I kind of broke it in half for this little cup, but the recipe for the number 5 experiment was a 1/4 teaspoon transparent white. I put that in first. And then I put a heaping 1/4 teaspoon of moon dust in. And I stir it until it's the powder gets incorporated in that paint. And that takes a bit of work to do. It ends up being like a paste. Okay. Then I add the M1, 1 or 2 drops at a time. I usually start with like 2 or 3 drops, right? This is what I use. And I got these on Amazon. You can get them. There's like a big bag of them for cheap. I've had this for over a year. I don't remember how much I paid for it. But I just get some in there, put a couple. I'll start off with 2 or 3 drops. I'll stir it really, really well. And once that's all incorporated, I'll add a drop or 2 at a time until I get a consistency that is similar to the consistency of my paint. You want it close where it'll leave a mound, but it doesn't stay. The mound disappears within 1 or 2 seconds. You don't want a mound on a mound, right? So this is just Viridian by Master's Touch. And then I didn't want to mix up a bunch of paints because I don't need them for anything else. This is Arteza pouring acrylics. I have a few of these left over. I've experimented with these. They're the only pre-mixed pouring paints that I've used, and they do work well with Floetrol. So if you have some paints that you mixed up with Floetrol and you have some of these, you can use them in the same pour, and they play well together on the canvas. There were no issues. I can't say that about other pouring paints because I haven't experimented with other pouring paints. And then I just use a palette knife to swipe. So I'm going to show you real quick here. And you know, I'm a self-taught artist. I mean, I've watched tutorials like probably many of you have. Took art in school, but I paint intuitively, and I really hope that these blogs not just save you time and money, which is all important things, but that it also inspires you in some way to find your own creative voice. Everyone's own unique creative voice. So I hope you find these inspiring and helpful. So this is what I do. And I have not seen anybody do this, so I mean, I've seen swipes like all over the place, right? But I've not seen anybody do a glowing swipe. So I was like super excited about this. I was jumping up and down. Sent Victoria a message. My neighbors probably think I'm crazy, but that's okay. All right. There's a lot of paint on this canvas. Now, one thing, as I said before when I was showing you the, I'm going to tilt that. There's a lot. I put way too much paint on that little, oh, and what I'm using here, this little canvas is actually a magnet. It's a canvas mounted on a magnet. This is wrapped still. And I get them, probably should put gloves on. I get them at Hobby Lobby. I get like a pack of 4 for like $2.49 or something. And they're great for doing little experiments. And if it works out and it looks good, you have a magnet. So, try and get that out of the glare. So I just put it on. So it's just on the back of my palette knife. Now when you swipe, if you haven't swiped before, you're just going across the top of the paint. Don't dig down into it. Clean it off before you swipe again. Reload the back of your palette knife. And there's all kinds of different tools you can use to swipe. I've seen people use old credit cards. Another way I swipe, if I'm swiping a large area, too large for a palette knife, or I do have a large spatula, but even that for a large canvas would be big if I wanted to do the whole thing. I have used paper towel. If you use a paper towel to swipe, like you're going down an entire large canvas, 2 things to keep in mind. Use only cheap paper towels. The expensive ones will absorb all your paint. Found that out by accident. Second, make sure that the part that you're swiping with, spray it with some water or dampen it so it's less likely to absorb your paint. And I'm just going to do that. And I'm not going to tilt it because when you tilt it, the swipe didn't hold up real well when I tilted. And that's actually an experiment that you want to do anytime if you're mixing up something, a new recipe, trying to come up, will it hold when you tilt? Will your design hold? That was the concern I had with M1 when I first used it, and M1 does. I have never, I can't say that anymore. Until I used it with the clear paint base, I had not come across a paint that it didn't work with, which makes it even more versatile than the Floetrol from Australia. The Australian Floetrol only really works with Amsterdam paint. The M1, I've used Arteza, I've used Liquitex, I've used Master's Touch, and they all work except for this. And I think it's because, again, it's an outdoor paint, and it's just a different chemical makeup. It's not your typical acrylic paint. Even though it's acrylic based, there's something different about it, and it didn't work with the M1 at all. I got no lacing. So now you can see the lacing develop. And all I did, you can see, I don't want to tip it. I took one of these little plastic cups with the lids that you can store your paint in, your mixed paint. I turned it upside down. I did mask the back of my magnet with painter's tape, and then I did a loop of painter's tape and stuck it to this so it stays. And now I'm just gonna, and that is how I got that. So that's pretty cool. So I can't wait for you all to try this. If you do this, if you try this, post pictures in the group. If you're on Facebook and you're in the group, definitely I want to see what you all create. This was so exciting for me because it's been in my head for, like I said, it's been in my head for months. This is not level. There we go. And let's see here. Okay, we're going to try and get a video of this. I might have too much light in here, but we'll see. There we go. And there is your glowing swipe. You have a great day, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.